Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Sports Fan Network, and I'm Travis.
And I'm Andrew.
And today, for our video, we're going to be doing a preview of the NLDS matchup between the Chicago Cubs and the Washington Nationals. And today, we're going to be breaking it down into categories for starting pitching, hitting, defense, bullpen, and then overall, who do we think is going to win this series? So I'll start it off with you, Andrew. Now, who you got in the starting pitching matchup?
Well, this is very interesting here. I think it's pretty even overall, but I mean, it's really tough to not go with the Nationals here when you talk about Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg, Gio Gonzalez. I mean, those are three guys with sub-3 ERAs going forward for them. And Tanner Roark is no slouch either. I know he's had his up and downs throughout the season with a 4.64 ERA, but with the type of offense that they have there, we'll get to that later with the offense the Nationals have. But, I don't think that's as big of a deal as maybe is what we see for the Cubs. You're just going for them. John Lester really struggled this year, 4.33 ERA, just very uncharacteristic. Jake Arrieta, after struggling early on in the year, kind of became the ace of this Cubs team again. Looked very strong in the second half of the season. Started looking like an elite pitcher again. Jose Quintana, after he got traded here, kind of up and down, 4.15 ERA, 14-10 on the year. And then Kyle Hendricks, who looked pretty solid in the second half of the year as we came back from injury. So, I mean, overall, they just released like what they're going to do for the starting pitchers going forward for this matchup, at least for the Cubs. They have Hendricks going number 1, Lester game 2, Quintana game 3, and Arrieta game 4, which is very odd to me. You'd think Arrieta would be pitching game 1 since he's been so good throughout these playoffs. To me, it kind of puts the advantage for the Nationals because they have, basically Scherzer playing – basically pitching twice if it goes to a game 5. So I got to give it to the Nationals here.
Yeah, for me, I also agree. I have to give this matchup to the Nationals. They have two top number 1 guys with Scherzer and Strasburg who have just been absolutely dominant this year. Now, they both have 2.51 and 2.52 ERA. So they have been absolutely lights out. And Gio Gonzalez, for your number 3 pitcher to have a sub-3 ERA is incredible. He has had a fantastic season, and this is a 5-game series. So for the Cubs, they could potentially see Matt Scherzer and Steven Strasburg twice, which would be 4 out of the 5 games if the Nationals want to go that route. That is not something you want to go up against. So for me in the starting pitching matchup, I have to go with the Nationals. But moving on to the next one, we got to go with the offense. And these are two offenses that are really, really good.
Yeah, let's start with the Nationals here. I mean, they're pretty much loaded overall. Let's start with Bryce Harper, one of the best players in baseball. He had 319 average this year with 29 home runs, 87 RBIs, 95 runs scored. And, it was only in 111 games because he was injured for quite a bit during the later half of the season. So, I mean, he's as good as ever, and he's just fantastic. He's the leader of this team. Daniel Murphy had a fantastic year coming over from the Mets. Batting 322, 23 home runs, 93 yards, 94 runs scored. And then Ryan Zimmerman, who's been there for a while here, batted 303 this year, 36 home runs, 108 RBIs. So, I mean, there's a lot of firepower on this Nationals offense.
Yeah, Bryce Harper is on his way to another NL MVP year before he got hurt. And Daniel Murphy is just straight up a Cubs killer. We know what he did in the postseason when he was on the Mets. He basically single-handedly beat us. Ryan Zimmerman, he's had a fantastic year. He's kind of had down years in the past. And I want to talk about Trey Turner, who could be one of the X factors in this series. He hit 284, but he also stole 46 bases.
Sure.
And this is something with John Lester. Everyone knows he cannot hold the guy on first. So, I mean, this is a guy that can basically get first to third possibly and set himself up in scoring position. So that could be a big X factor. But, looking at the Nationals, they have 4 guys who hit at least 23 home runs. So they definitely got a lot of power in that lineup. But looking at the Cubs, I mean, this is a very youthful lineup who has lots of skills, lots of power. And we got to start off with Chris Bryant, who hit 295 on the year. He had 29 home runs, which is a little bit down, and only 73 RBIs. But he did score 111 runs, which is really good. And then him pairing Chris Bryant with Anthony Rizzo, who hit 273 with 32 home runs and 109 RBIs. I mean, these are two guys that bat second and third or third and fourth. That if you walk one, you got to pitch the other guy, and these are two really good hitters who have had success in the postseason. So I think that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, Burzos, we call them here in Chicago. I mean, they had some struggles early on in the year, but throughout the second half of the season, they were red hot this end of the year, and they were really good at the end of the year, kind of helped that Cubs team secure their National League Central title. Yeah, just very solid across the board. Let's go down the list here when we have Javier Baez with 273s, more of a kind of played more of a rotational role for this team last year in the playoffs. I expect him to get a lot more time this year because he's just so dynamic as a hitter and as a fielder, which we'll get to later. Wilson Contreras is another guy to look out for. There was a stretch there in August where he looked like he was ready to break out as a superstar for quite a while there before he got injured. He's a really exciting player, very athletic catcher with a lot of power, batting 276 on the season with 21 home runs. But, he's very impressive overall. And the X factors for me is Kyle Schwarber, a guy who really struggled this year. I mean, he hits a lot of home runs, but he's going to strike out a lot, and he really hasn't figured out how to bat against that shift that a lot of teams have been employing against him. But if he can get hot for this series, that's something that could swing the series advantage towards the Cubs in this one.
Yeah, in his brief career so far, Kyle Schwarber has had a ton of playoff success. So that's one positive going forward. But looking at this Cubs lineup, they have 6 players who hit at least 21 home runs, and they're all really young. And so for me, in the offensive matchup, I honestly have to give the slight edge to the Cubs. I think they just have a little bit more pop. I think they're a little more deeper in their lineup. For the Nationals, once you get through the 1 through 5, their 6 through 9 hitters aren't really that good, and I think the Cubs are a little bit more deep. So I have to give the advantage to the Cubs for offense.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. Even though the averages for the Cubs aren't very impressive, I thought they really pulled it together in the second half of the season, really went on a tear hitting-wise. I mean, they had a lot of games during the second half of the season where they're scoring like 15, 17 runs, which is really ridiculous during the second half of the season. So I think the averages don't tell the whole story about this Cubs offense. I think they're ready to break out here. It's going to be tough going against that Nationals pitching trio, like we said, because the Nationals do have a great starting pitching lineup here. But, again, I got to give the advantage to the Cubs here. But let's move on to defense. Who do you see kind of having the advantage here?
Yeah, for this one, it's pretty close, but I'm going to have to go with the Cubs again on the advantage. I think they have one of the best defenses in baseball, starting with 2 really good middle infielders in Addison Russell and Javier Baez. You watch their defensive gems, and, they can cover so much ground. They got great arms and make crazy acrobatic plays, and they're some of the best middle infielders in the game for defense. And I haven't even mentioned Jason Hayward and Anthony Rizzo, who are both Gold Glovers at their positions, and especially Jason Hayward in the outfield. He's got a great arm. He can cover lots of ground. Really one of the better defensive outfielders in the game. So for me in this one, I give the Cubs the advantage on defense.
Yeah, it's not even covering guys like Almora Jr., who kind of comes in as a situational guy, and as well as Chris Bryant at third base, who's quietly a very good third baseman in terms of fielding as well. The Cubs, for me, I got to agree with you. They're kind of loaded on defense all across the board. We'll see how they play Schwarber throughout the series. He's a little bit of a weak spot on defense in the outfield, but if he can be serviceable for them, I feel like that goes a long way to helping that defense stay, as solid as it is. So let's move on to our last portion here, the bullpen. Who do you think's got the advantage here?
I think this is the closest matchup out of all the things we've compared so far. And even though I think the Cubs have a better closer between the two teams, I'm going to have to go with the Nationals, who have the better bullpen. Both of these teams have had their bullpen struggles this year, but one guy I really like on the Nationals is Matt Albers. He has been fantastic in relief this year, recording a 1.62 ERA, and he has 14 holds. And Ryan Madsen has also had a very strong year, posting a 1.83 ERA and 11 holds. So basically, I like the Nationals setup men a lot more better than the Cubs setup men, but I like the Cubs closer over the Nationals closer. But I think if the setup men cannot get their job done, then the closer is not even going to get a chance to get in the ball game. So for me on this one, I'm going to have to go with the Nationals.
Yeah, for me, this is a tough one because, like you said, I really have a hard time trusting the Cubs bullpen to be consistent. They were very inconsistent throughout the season. But Wade Davis, he's one of the best closers in baseball. And I've been hearing a lot that Joe Madden wants to use him for 2-inning saves or 4 or 5 out saves, something like that. Will be interesting to see if they kind of go that route in this one, because that might limit their bullpen struggles a bit if their pitchers can give them 6 or 7 solid innings in their starting pitching. Having Wade Davis for 1 or 2 innings there could really be a big boost to this bullpen that's really struggled this season. So for me, I'm going to give it a push for now because, like we said, Wade Davis, he's so consistent, so solid as a pitcher. And if they decide to use him more, I mean, obviously kind of the wear and tear of doing that could kind of play an effect going later on in the playoffs. But in terms of just for this series, I don't think it'll have too much of an impact if they decide to go that route.
Yeah, so ultimately we went through all the categories. So overall, Andrew, who do you have for this series?
Well, I'm going to go with my hometown team, the Cubs. I mean, I think their pitching is a lot closer than a lot of people want to make it out to be, because obviously with the ERAs, the huge discrepancy there. But John Lester, he's a big game pitcher. He always seems to pitch well in the playoffs. Arrieta is starting to get his groove going. Hendricks looks pretty good. And the Washington Nationals, they do have some great pitching. I got to give them that. But I think the Cubs had just a little bit more advantage when it comes to hitting and defense. And like we said, the bullpen's pretty even. It's a very close series for me, though, and it's going to be really tough. I see the Cubs winning this one in 5 games. I just think the Cubs have found their spark back that they had, last year when they won the World Series.
Yeah, I agree with you in the point that I definitely think this series is going 5 games, maybe 4 games. But as much as I love the Chicago Cubs, I'm going to have to go with the Washington Nationals on this one. Now, one big piece is, Bryce Harper's coming off injury. How is he going to be able to perform? And if he's not 100%, maybe he doesn't do that well. So that's going to be a big X factor in the series. But I like the Washington Nationals offense a lot. They have really good 1 through 5 hitters who hit for power, hit for average, and they got good base stealers. And I think that bullpen is just, if for somehow the Cubs chase their starters early, they could go to the bullpen and survive, where the Nationals chase the Cubs starters early. Those setup guys have been pretty bad for the Cubs this year. So I think this is going to be a really close series. But ultimately, I got the Washington Nationals in 5.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys, for watching. Let us know in the comment sections below whether you think the Cubs or the Nationals come out on top in this one. I think it's going to be a very exciting series overall. Going to be very competitive. And, yeah, thanks, guys, for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below and who's going to win. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, please let us know. We love interacting with you guys. You guys are the best fans. And thank you so much for watching.